Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020, and Goodwill Work and Community Services welcomes you once again to another edition of Learning. Today we'd like to give you some information on how to search Google just a little bit better than you have before. It gives you the opportunity to find answers no matter where you're at, as long as you have access to a device that you can bring Google up on. And there are easy ways to get answers to just about anything. So without further ado, and please bear in mind that there will be a little bit of delay on some of the slides that I'll have ready for you. But in searching Google a bit better, what we want to be able to do is let you know a little bit about Google and what is a search engine. So with that in mind, you should know that it started in 1996 as a research project by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Both were PhD students at Stanford University in California. As they had this project going, it was simply for research, and they had nothing else in mind to do except find out what they could do with a search engine. They even tried to sell it at one point for $1 million. The investor got them down to $750,000. His partner disagreed, but he decided not to opt to that. Today, Google is worth $400 billion. So, yeah, I'm sure they're going to regret that decision. The other thing that we want to bear in mind is that when they were making everything up, they actually misspelled the word. The word Google is not Google, so it was spelled Googol is the original spelling. It's simply a large number with 100 zeros behind it, also known at the largest number before infinity. So when they were trying to do that, they wanted to do it to get back to something that would impress people, because the first one that they had, the first name that they had for it, it was called backrub, which is a term that they used for programming in a particular way when it went back to get information. But once they went public and decided to incorporate it in 1996, Google is born. So Google itself being a company of not just search engines, but of a lot of other apps, it's probably important to let you know that Google, the company itself, has some pretty interesting benefits to them. For example, when a Google employee dies, their spouse receives half pay from the company for 10 years, and their children $1,000 a month until they turn 19. Google's corporate philosophy includes principles such as: you can make money without doing evil, you can be serious without a suit, and work should be challenging, and the challenge should be fun. Google intends to scan all known existing unique books, which are about 129 million, by the end of 2020. And every day, 16% of the searches that occur are ones that Google has never seen before. They are doing about 2 million searches, new searches, every minute. So Google has its work cut out for themselves all the time in trying to take care of some of these things. It would probably be interesting for you to know also that every search that you do, Google records, even the mistakes. And the mistakes from Google are data mined, and those data mined mistakes, basically the misspellings, the things that you search for, all go into a library that other people can access data on, which is used to influence you in social media, text, how the CIA reports your information, as well as what you are doing when you're using something like Google Earth or any other Google application that maps things out. Google Earth was originally, for example, not invented necessarily by Google, but developed by Google as a suggestion from the CIA. So Google's involved in a lot of different ways in our lives. There are about 140 search engines out there, but out of all of the search engines that are out there, Google has 92% of the market. So if that's in dollars, that's 92 cents out of every dollar. Bing, which is owned by Microsoft, has 2.6% of the market. Yahoo, 1.79% of the market. And then you have all of the other search engines that are used, in between there. It makes a big difference because with all the searches that are done on Google, that's where you're going to have access to most of the information. And they are successful because they have the math. They have the best mathematics, the best algorithm that is developed for doing the searches. It's also important to know that Google is only searching the surface web. So when you talk about the internet, you have the surface web, you have the deep web, you have the dark web, and of all of these, the surface web is only about 4% of the web overall. So Yahoo, Google, Reddit, CNN, Bing, any other place that you're really going to talk about has more to do with the surface web. The other 96% has more to do with academic databases, medical records, finance records, subscriptions, and then you get down into the dark web, which is very, very deep, and that is for political protests, drug trafficking, and you don't hear about these, about the drug trafficking that goes on that is a multi-billion-dollar business. There's a multitude of illegal activities when you get down to the dark web, and you have to have a special browser to get into those kind of things. But we're going to deal with the legality of the 4% of the web that we deal with today. So this is Google.com. Everybody's pretty familiar with the search bar in the Google search itself. And you'll find that when you start doing searches in the search bar itself, a number of interesting features. The I'm feeling lucky feature that is located on the right, for example, means that, number one, Google will lose about $110 million a day because it bypasses all the ad content. It will bring up the most relevant, most significant ads that they think pertain to you based on what you searched before. So if you've ever been on Facebook or done any other kind of search and then suddenly a pop-up comes up for something that you were shopping for and here's an ad, this is all done from your Google searches. All of these searches are supposed to be to not only access the content that you want, but also to be able to supply you with the business and advertising that does everything to get the answers that you want to be able to get a hold of. As a matter of fact and technique, Google uses a policy often called in their company called innovation time off, where Google engineers are encouraged to spend 20% of their work time on projects that interest them. Some of Google's newer services, such as Gmail, Google News, Orca, AdSense, originated from these independent endeavors. And in a talk at Stanford University, Google's Vice President Marissa Mayer said that half of all of their innovative applications were due to this 20% time off that they've been able to have. So it makes sense for them to be able to do this and give their employees the time that they need to take the creative juices that they've got for independence. At the same time, in 2001, since 2001, Google's acquired many companies, primarily small venture capital funded firms, that they've been acquiring 2 companies a month since 2001. In 2010, Google Energy made its first investment in a renewable energy project, putting up $38.8 million in 2 wind farms in North Dakota. They eventually sold, rebought, and that investment turned into a $400 million profit for them a little bit later. So there's a lot that goes into the Google searches themselves. Most notably, even though Google is not a part of this particular company, if you would like to do a private search without it being tracked, the information and data collection that Google uses, not Doodle, that would be bad, the Google uses is done on a place called startpage.com. So Google doesn't necessarily directly support it monetarily, but startpage.com is a page where you can search privately and not have anything tracked. As you can see, you can add it to Safari, set it as your home page. It just all depends on the direction that you're trying to go with the information that you're trying to get a hold of. So then, going back to Google and what it's trying to do, it's going to provide you with a group of services that you can use on a daily basis. And basically, when you get into a search engine, the search engine with itself is just a way to find answers. And when you can find answers to your questions, it makes it much easier than calling somebody else on the phone. Everybody's generally got a smartphone or access to one, as well as having the opportunity to find more information than we've been able to find since the beginning of the printing press. The printing press started about 877 AD for those that like to nerd things out like me. Because if I want an answer, I don't want just the answer itself. I want to go a little bit deeper, and Google will allow me to do that. You may end up with different search results from person to person to person. You can take a look at something like that if you want to go onto YouTube and do a search, and just look up searching Google TED Talk, and you'll find that the different pieces of information that you have are going to depend on the person that's doing the searching, even though they might have the same exact search phrases involved. So how do you do a search? And to work on an exact phrase or quote? Well, quite easily, as you can see in the search bar, you can just simply type it in. But if it's something that you want to be specific about, the best thing that you can do is to take whatever search term or quote that you have and enclose it in double quotation marks. Enclosing it in double quotation marks on both sides allows that search term to be searched exactly for what you feel you are going to need. If it is a famous quote, you will have a lot of resources, different websites that will have it, as well as they'll be able to take that search term and reference it in their interpretation with what they are trying to do in that search term itself. The next thing that you're going to want to take a look at is when you ask questions. For example, how many letters are there in the alphabet versus in quotations, how many letters are in the alphabet? In the first set, you're going to get exactly what you want out of the quotations. But Google interprets those things differently with the quotation marks. And those quotation marks that you're going to have that are going to come up next are going to give you a totally different set of answers. And in this case, it doesn't give me the answer at all because it references music into 150 kindergarten hits as my first reference to what it is that I'm trying to do with my Google search. So verses is actually part of what's called a Boolean operator. And we're going to get into those, and don't let it scare you away, because it's simply like doing math using English. So versus, VS, is going to be a part of the math that you're going to do. So how are we going to improve our searches? Well, quite simply, in the search bar, you use Google search operators. When the graphic comes up to you here in just a moment, you're going to see that in the simple defined terms that are there, you can see how to search a site, a file type, whether that is going to be a PDF, a doc, a text. You can find the operations and the definitions for the word. In title, it's going to allow you to look at the words of the web page. And this graphic, by the way, we'll have in a picture album so that you don't have to do a print screen or anything. You'll be able to bring up the picture from the Google Community Services website, and in that album I thought you might like to be able to find some of these references. All of these references that you have here are Boolean operators. They're simply codes to a language on how to ask questions a little bit better. So if you want to take those pictures and download them and print them, it'll make it a lot easier when you go back to look at some of the searches that you want to be able to do. So in doing some of the searches themselves, in the Boolean searches, there are about 5 Boolean searches that are very common that you can use. It's going to make it much, much easier when you are typing in your words and how you want to use those words for everything. My phone is not keeping up with everything that I actually want it to stay up with here, so it's trying to search itself on its own, which is never good. So I'm going to take just a moment while the screen catches up. There we go, and we're back to Boolean searches once again. A Boolean search is a type of search allowing users to combine keywords with operators. Your keywords are just simply going to be the words that you're going to look for. For example, hotel and New York. So you want to look for a hotel and you want the word New York to come up. So you use the word "and" between those. It makes much more sense to be able to know what words those are going to be that you want. But when you combine them, it makes your words much more simple to be able to do those. So instead of looking at the many Boolean operators that you're going to need to know, I've got 5 operators for you that you're going to want to use, and it'll help you in the future with those searches and trying to get the results that you want much faster, much easier, and you'll probably stumble along information that you wouldn't have had before. So the first of these 5 searches that I want you to take a look at, of the 5 Boolean operators, is going to be and will narrow your searches to include only relevant results that contain your required keywords. For example, if you wanted to look at Steeler championships, and notice that that is in the quotation marks and quarterbacks, it would give you the results with both the phrase Steeler championships and the keyword quarterback, so you'd get a listing of both of those in the websites that you put down or that you wanted to access at the same time. When you go to the next of the 5 Boolean operators that are important for you to understand, the next one is going to be or. And or is a choice that everybody makes. And or will expand your search results so that all the results must contain at least one, if not more, of your defined keywords or phrases. So if you can't think of a word or a phrase, and you're stuck, but you know one but maybe not the other, or gives you the opportunity so that you can include all the synonyms for a given title, phrase, or word. For example, NFL or N.F.L. or National Football League, because one particular website may not refer to it in the same way as the other website. And that way, all the possibilities of trying to get the best information is going to be in front of you. The third in our series of Boolean operators is going to be the word not. So not limits your search by excluding defined keywords and or phrases from your results. So if I wanted to find the results of an NFL team, for example, the illustrious Dallas Cowboys, and I put not between the words Dallas Cowboys and competitive, I would find that in the example above, all the results will contain the phrase Dallas Cowboys, but not the word competitive. It makes it much easier. I'm going to go back to the quotation marks again, which I think is pretty simplistic, but instead of looking up football championship and finding different words that would reference football and or championship, the quotation marks that are going to be used around a phrase that needs to be returned in that exact order, for example, in this case, in quotation marks, football championship, it will only return the results that contain the exact phrase football championship. If you do not use quotation marks around the phrases, each word in the phrase will be treated separately as if you used and between each word. So it makes a big difference in using these simple operators. Again, these are all Boolean operators, to be able to go back and kind of thin down. What you're doing is you are adding information to the search results so that the information that you get back or that you want to get back is germane to the subject that you're going to be talking about. Parentheses, our fifth and last operator that we're going to use, they give priority. It's kind of like doing math. So if you had 2 plus 5 times 5 and you did that all together, you will come up with the wrong results in the answer, as opposed to if you put 2 plus 5 in the parentheses plus 5 to give you the right answer. So it gives you an order on how you want to search for something. Best or elite or great and Pittsburgh Steelers, and you would find all the information that you would want with the greatest team ever to play in the National Football League since 1933, and set an example for Tom Brady and the rest of the Patriots to follow and to aspire to. Next thing in our Google searches is that you should probably understand that you have a google.com, but also in most browsers, and I like to use Google Chrome because it is made by Google, is the URL. And the URL is a short term, an acronym for Uniform Resource Locator. And we really don't care about that term as much as we understand that it's what goes into the top of your search bar. Like most things that you put in www.google.com. You can get different search results depending on the browser that you're going to have. So if you were to example want to Google like a pro, if you knew the URL, the address, which you see below, https:// and the rest of it, you could get to this site. But if you would simply go into Google and you want to search YouTube and how to Google like a pro, it's going to give you the information that you want to be able to give much quicker. So we don't search for answers just in terms of words. We search for answers in terms of images. So one of the things that you can do is you can do a reverse image search. And the way that you can do a reverse image search, instead of typing the name in of what you want to see, for example, spider, I want to see what a spider is, you can take a picture off of your phone or off of your computer and do a reverse image search. So you do this by going to images in your URL, images.google.com, and in doing that reverse image search, you have a little camera that comes up that's on your Google search bar. You click on the camera, and then once you click on the camera, it's going to ask you for an image. So again, whether it's on your computer or whether it's on your smartphone, you're going to take that image, and the image that you're going to be coming up is a picture that we had in our garden from a couple years ago, and it's a spider. So I want to know what kind of spider it is and how we're going to get some of the results for that. So in doing a reverse image search, again, images.google.com, you enter that in, and you are going to get the visual answers that are similar to what you entered in. So coming up to you next are going to be the visual answers of this particular spider, which it is common in Ohio. It's not poisonous, by the way. For some reason, this spider is black and gold. I guess he's probably a Steeler fan too, as dangerous as he looks. That just kind of makes sense. You don't see many Dallas Cowboy spiders. It's hurtful, you know. We Steeler fans, we have literally prayed for their team and tried to help them, but they hang up too soon. We don't pick up the phone until after 6 rings. That's just how we roll. One of the other things that you can do if you're looking for a search on an image or a particular subject, a lot of the searches that I do, I'm trying to pick up on woodworking that I like to do, but I don't want something that has come through Pinterest. So what I use is the dash sign or the minus sign to omit words. So if I said kitchen design ideas minus Pinterest, it won't bring up anything to do with Pinterest that way. So it makes it much easier to be able to get the more specific results of what I'm trying to do. And that's really some of the things that you want to be able to go on to, is in the specific results of what you want to be able to get. Specifically, again, if you're looking for a particular document, and that document is a PDF file, a PPT file, which is PowerPoint, PDF is a portable document format, a doc file, which is usually something that is produced by Word, XLS, which is an extension that you'll see a lot in doing spreadsheets. You can do the search terms by the file type. So again, you're getting very, very specific with what it is that you want to be able to do. You can also have a lot of fun with Google. So in that, here's some of the different tricks that you can do. People will call them hacks or Easter eggs, tricks, tips, those kind of things. And you can do a Google search on Google search bar tricks, hacks, Easter eggs, those kind of things. And it will tell you exactly how to do it. So trick one that you can do, if you'll type in barrel roll and hit enter or click search, your screen will do a barrel roll. It will do a 360 degree turn. If you go into trick number two, askew, it's not a very good picture, but what it does is it tilts the results of your screen so that it's kind of, as my mom would say, whopper jaw. You don't want whopper jaw results. It makes it much more difficult to read. Going from the barrel roll to askew, if you type the word in anagram, an anagram is a phrase or name formed by rearranging the letters of another. In other words, it's a scrambled word. Well, if you take the word anagram, it will take the definition anagram and make it nagaram. Another fun Google thing. That within itself is fun for anybody that likes to do crossword puzzles or they're trying to figure things out, in that direction. If you will go into Google and you type in Google Sphere and then you hit I'm feeling lucky and move your mouse around, what it's going to do is it's going to scramble the words as you move your mouse around into a sphere that surrounds whatever it is where you're putting those in. And as you can see in the graphic on the image search, those words looked normal until I started moving the mouse around, and they'll just spin into circles over and over and over. If you went to look at Google Mirror and you type in elgoog.im, it's everything that's in your search results will be Googled backwards. This is part of what the engineers do for fun when they're trying to stay not boring. Finally, again, you look at this next page. These are some of the Easter eggs that you can get. If you go into Google and you want to do a search on Thanos, click the little cartoon, the little hand clear to the right, and what you're going to find is you'll sit back as Evil Space Grimace snaps half of your search into dust in the wind. It just makes wasting time more fun. Trick number 7 that we've got coming up has to do with some of the older games too. If you were of the age when you could play Pac-Man back in the day and you would still like to be able to play it, then you can take a look at trick number 7, which is Google Pac-Man and hit I'm feeling lucky. It will then in turn give you the Pac-Man game, which you can go ahead and play. Still a lot of fun, still getting eaten, still having problems with that. It's okay. I have a regular therapist I like to go to, it helps. Then next thing you can do is you can type in Wizard of Oz, and if you type in Wizard of Oz in the Google search bar and click on Dorothy's red shoes over in the corner, you're going to find that her shoes are going to click 3 times and magic will happen. Finally, to finish the last couple things around when you're doing these Google searches, whether it's for fun or for business, there are a plethora of things that you can search for, but nothing affects us probably quite as much as trying to do math. You'll find very few people that actually like to do math, but there are math functions that you don't need a calculator for, because literally your computer is a big calculator if you simply know how to use your URL or your Google search bar to be able to get your information. So typing in Google Calculator brings up a calculator like the one on your screen. And then finally, if you want to do any more math functions themselves, the math functions that you can do in your URL or in your google.com, you can do from simple 4-function math clear on over to graphing. Helps with homework if you ever happen to need that resource. If you'd like to remove information from Google, you can do that. You can ask Google to remove specific information like your bank account number or images of your handwritten signature or anything that you would find that's invade your privacy. But if they are on a private website, Google doesn't access that. They just access the information that's out there. You'd have to contact the website itself to be able to get that information taken care of. But it is possible to do because your information is out there. I could probably find anybody's address and or telephone number in a matter of about 5 minutes, no matter where you are in the United States, by doing the right Google searches. It makes it pretty easy. If you like some interesting facts, simply Google 63 fascinating Google search statistics, and it'll bring up the website to let you know a little bit more about the company itself. Whether you're interested in that sort of geek data or not, Google's most efficient data center runs at 95 degrees. They can run so hot that humans can't go near them for extended periods of time. Google hired a camel to create a street view of the desert. Yeah, that's a camel. That's that thing with the big hump in the back. If you Google camel, you can find an image of it. So you've got a number of pieces of information. But most importantly, as I said in the beginning, in the year 877 AD, the printing press began. October 29th, 1969, the military went online with the internet. And even though we didn't have as many people that were using it, on August 6, 1991 is when the modern internet began, and we are still building content. If you were to look at every page of every second of your life, you would not be able to look at everything that is now on the internet, and it compiles every day. 3,000 new species are discovered every day of different types of organisms. About 3,000 books are published every day. You can take an entire library and put them on a CD, and every library by the end of this year will be scanned into Google. We at Goodwill would like to thank you for taking the opportunity and giving us your time, and hope to see you again soon. From Gary Gerhardt and the Goodwill team, thank you for playing.